I want you to think of a time someone told you a really good story. Maybe you were sitting around a dining room table. Maybe it was late at night. Maybe it was a friend telling you about a breakup or an adventure they went on, or an embarrassing moment, or something that completely changed their life. And as they spoke, you could see it. You could feel it. You could picture the room. You could feel the tension in the air. You were suddenly inside of her experience. That is the power of storytelling. It usually has very little to do with the actual event itself. Some people can tell a story about losing their keys and have you completely captivated. And other people can describe a objectively extraordinary experience and somehow make you feel flat or have you lose the thread of what they're sharing. So today, I want to show you a few simple storytelling frameworks that will instantly make your communication more vivid, more magnetic, emotional, and memorable. The good news is this has much less to do with being naturally charismatic and much more to do with learning how to create an experience instead of a summary. I'm Lisa Lacroix. I'm a communications, skills, and relational muse. I'm a speaking coach, and I guide people to have more connected communication. And this video is part of my Magnetic Speaking Skills series where we explore how to become a more compelling communicator through embodiment, emotional connection, and real human presence. Most people think storytelling is about entertainment, but it's really about transportation, taking your listener somewhere else. Weak storytelling delivers information, and often people feel they need to tell that information in a linear and sequential way. But magnetic storytelling transports people into an experience, and that's the difference. So it's not summary, which sounds like this thing happened, and then this thing happened, and then this thing happened, and that's what I learned. Memorable storytellers create imagery and sensation. They use mirror neurons to have the listener experience emotion and feel the tension and have their own sensory experience. So they feel like they're inside of the moment. So let me show you the difference. A summary version of a story from my life would sound something like this. I won a ballroom dance title after starting dance later in life. I was 50 and I decided to start doing ballroom dance, and I really loved it. And then I started competing, and before I knew it, I was the winner of a world title in my category. Sequential, linear, not that compelling. So here is a different version. I'm going to do my best now to transport you a little more into the experience. Let me take you back to a few months after my 50th birthday. I'm holding a bouquet of flowers and I can smell lilies wafting off of the bouquet. Well, the American national anthem plays. And I can still smell that unique and definitive spray tan scent in the air. And much to my shock and my delight, I have just won a world title in American Rhythm Ballroom Dance for my age category. And what makes that moment extraordinary is that not so many years earlier, I was a homeschooling mother of two who'd spent a decade wearing my hair in a ponytail, no makeup, and I hadn't worn earrings in probably 8 years. That is a tiny slice of my story of going from homeschooling mother to competitive ballroom dancer. And more than dance, I'm telling you this story, which is really about reinvention and visibility and discovering that no matter what, you are never too old and it is never too late. Now, why does that version work better? Because instead of merely telling you information, I helped you go through the experience with me. One subtle storytelling challenge people often run to is this. They want to tell you a story in a vivid and experiential way, but they don't properly orient the listener first. So without orientation, you suddenly launch into a story. It sounds like I'm standing here, and then I open the door, and then I walk through, and you get hung up on all the details that aren't making the story compelling. You haven't brought the listener in to let them know that now you're telling a story. Powerful storytellers use what I call first-person doorways. They prepare the audience to enter the lived experience, and here are just 3 ways you can do that. 3 of the most useful ones. The first one is what I call the memory doorway. It sounds like this. Let me take you back. Or, I still remember when. Or, I'll never forget. So, let me take you back to a few months after my 50th birthday is a memory entry. I am orienting you through walking through that doorway to let you know that I'm going to start telling you a story. I'm saying we are now entering a lived experience and a story that I'm going to share with you. The second entry doorway I would call the time and place entry. That is where you ground the audience in a specific moment by letting them know where they are now. So something like, it was the fall of 2021, or it was 3 months after my divorce. It's 11 p.m. in a hotel hallway. Now they know they are about to hear a story, and they know their location and their space. The third entry doorway is called the imagination doorway, and that is simply beginning with the idea of imagine. Imagine walking into a room where everyone has already decided who you are before you've even entered. You've oriented them in an experience. You brought them with you, which creates an immediate experience of them participating in the moment. It gives you a shared mental imagery, a shared experience in that moment by asking them to imagine with you. So once you've taken them through that doorway, either through the memory entry point or the time and place doorway or the imagination doorway, then you have them oriented and you can begin to tell the story. You can move into a vivid first-person story that they will experience with you. The 6 sensory channels. It's really 5 senses plus a bonus. Most people will tell us what happened, the details. They'll narrate the story item by item, step by step, often in a sequential manner, which will have us be either bored or lost. But human beings experience reality through our senses. So if you want people to remember your stories, you need to engage the 5 senses and the bonus of emotion. That means you need to stimulate their sense of sight and smell and sound. What are they hearing? And how does something taste? And how do they feel in their body through what they're touching or through their embodied experience? And then the bonus is always emotion. When you can hit people's emotional receptors, they are so much more likely to remember the story you're telling them. Interestingly, smell is one of the most powerful storytelling tools because smell bypasses cognition in a way that stimulating people's idea of sight doesn't so much. Smell instead goes directly into the memory and emotional association. So you get the double win of both the strongest sense and the emotional association. So notice the difference between I was backstage before the competition versus I can smell hairspray, spray tan lotion, and stale hotel carpet. All of that is awakening my nerves. Suddenly you're with me. You have the sense and you have an emotional experience. So physical sensation and emotion are not the same thing. My stomach drops is another way I could say that. My chest tightens. My breath is shortening. My hands start shaking are other ways that I can combine body sensations in a way that implies emotions as well. So strong storytellers will combine both. Let's talk about emotions. Magnetic storytelling doesn't just give visual imagery, it will attach emotional charge to that imagery. For example, I looked down at the untouched coffee getting cold between us as we looked at each other. Through that, you're getting a sense. You can see the coffee. You can imagine cold coffee. You could possibly even anticipate what cold coffee might taste like. And you have a metaphor for the emotional tone between us, me, and the implied other person. When I share an image that has senses and emotion attached, it is more powerful than explaining emotions directly. One of the reasons stories become compelling is contrast. Contrast creates engagement. It's a kind of pattern interrupt where one thing you're feeling or thinking or expecting is suddenly interrupted by something exactly the opposite or quite different. So in my ballroom dance story, the real emotional attention is not the dance. It's the contrast between the image of me on the podium, holding the flowers, the national anthem playing, and my excitement, surprise, and happiness contrasted with the image of me as a homeschooling mother in a ponytail who hadn't worn makeup or jewelry for 8 years. So the gap and the difference between them creates surprise. It suggests and implies the transformation that occurred in me, and there's probably some kind of emotional charge in it. So you can create contrast through comparing your past self with your present self, or contrasting the expectation of the listener versus the surprise of the reality, which might be quite different, or an external success versus the lived experience internally, or something you might feel certain about versus the reality of being confused. So contrast creates tension, and tension keeps people engaged. It takes them along with you. One of the simplest storytelling frameworks I teach is what I call the scene builder. For the scene builder, you can simplify to just 4 things. Where am I? Orienting the listener to join me in space and time. What am I sensing? Through ideally one of the powerful ones like smell, and I think sound can be powerful too. What am I feeling, either somatically or emotionally or both? And what's changing? Those 4 elements alone will drastically improve your storytelling. So, for example, it's 11 p.m. in a hotel hallway in Toronto. The carpet smells faintly like bleach and stale wine, and I'm staring at my phone, trying to decide whether to answer that message I don't even want to open. That sets us up well and works because it creates specificity. I have oriented the listener in place. I have given them a sense of what it is like to be in this place through the sense of smell. And then I've shared a very specific experience that is both visual, holding my phone and looking at it, and emotional in that there's a message there that I don't want to open. And then let's talk about ending the story. How do you land this message? Most of the time, when people are telling stories, they fall into the habit of weak endings. They trail off, and it sounds something like, so anyway, that's what happened. Do you know what I'm talking about? They over-explain the lesson until the energy completely disappears, and then they don't know how to end, so they simply trail off energetically and with their words. A strong storytelling ending lands the emotional meaning clearly, explicitly, and simply. Imagine ending the ballroom story like this. So yeah, that's how I got into dance, and I really loved it. Versus a stronger ending. And more than dance, this became a story about reinvention and visibility and discovering that you are never too old and it is never too late. A strong ending does one of a few things. It reveals the meaning behind the story. It creates an emotional shift. It can widen the story beyond the literal event and give it some metaphorical or underlying implicit meaning that is then revealed. It invites the listener to think about how something similar might apply to them. So even though you may not be a ballroom dancer, you might be able to relate to the fear that you're too old and it's too late. So I can leave you with something you relate to that brings you into the story and that also has some hope, some inspiration, some emotion. So I leave you with a final image or a truth or something that I learned, something that you can learn too. So if you want a very simple storytelling framework, here it is. Help the listener to enter the experience through a doorway, through their mirror neurons, using the 5 senses and the bonus of an emotional experience. And then land the meaning by telling them what you learned, what they could learn too, and leaving them with either a call to action or an inspirational moment or understanding. Those things alone will dramatically improve your communication, and you can use them anywhere. You don't have to be telling a formal story. People will not remember every piece of information you shared, but they will remember details they experienced for themselves, what they felt, what they smelled, where you took them. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, share it with someone who wants to become a better communicator, and let me know in the comments which of these storytelling frameworks you are going to practice first. And if you want to see another video, YouTube thinks you'll like this one, and my magnetic communication skills playlist is right here. So I'll see you next time. Thanks for being here.